The first thing I did in Paris was steal a bride's wedding dress. Accidentally. I was 33 years old, recently unemployed, running on airplane coffee, and the kind of shame that makes a man pack 3 button-down shirts like he still has meetings to attend. My name is Noah Mercer, and 2 weeks before that flight, I'd been asked to take some time to reset from my job as a software support manager in Chicago. That was a polite way of saying, Noah, you look like a ghost. You answer emails at 2 a.m., and last Thursday you forgot the CEO's name in a client call. So I flew to Paris to stay with my cousin Elise, who had been telling me for years that my soul needed better bread and worse cell service. She texted me her address the morning of the flight with strict instructions to write it on the paper tag at the check-in counter, under my name and my phone number. Airlines lose things, she wrote. Cousins do not. So I did. Name, number, and a street in the 11th arrondissement, printed in tired block letters by a man who had not slept properly since March. At Charles de Gaulle, the carousel coughed up a long row of black suitcases with silver handles, every one of them as unimaginative as mine. Back in Chicago, I'd tied a strip of red ribbon to my handle so I'd know it in a crowd. Standing there under those lights, I never actually looked for the ribbon. I counted bags, picked one, and thought, look at me, functioning adult. I found my bag in a foreign country. There was a woman across the carousel in a cream coat. I noticed her the way you notice weather. She let 2 bags roll past her without moving, like she was waiting for something that was never going to come out on a belt. I remember thinking she looked exactly the way I felt. Then I stopped thinking about her because my confidence had roughly 40 minutes left to live. Elise lived above a narrow street in the 11th in an apartment that smelled like espresso, old books, and rain on stone. She hugged me so hard my ribs complained, then left almost immediately for her shift at a small wine shop near Bastille. Shower, she ordered, pointing at me. Sleep. Eat something that didn't come wrapped in plastic. Yes, ma'am. And stop checking your email. You are unemployed in Paris. That is either tragic or romantic. Choose romantic. I laughed like I knew how. After she left, the apartment went quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet where your brain starts replaying every mistake you made in the last year. I dragged the suitcase onto the bed, unzipped it, and froze. There were no jeans inside, no shaving kit, no sad collection of socks from Target. There was a wedding dress, not just any wedding dress, a breathtaking one. Ivory silk folded like water, lace sleeves delicate enough to make me afraid to breathe on them, tiny pearl buttons running down the back. It looked expensive. It looked loved. It looked like the kind of dress a woman imagined before she ever met the man. For a few seconds, I just stood there with both hands on the zipper, as if the suitcase might apologize and turn back into mine. Then I said, out loud to no one, Noah, you absolute idiot! I looked at the handle. No red ribbon. Of course there wasn't. I checked the luggage tag. Not mine. Natalie Rowan. Under her name, a hotel near the Seine. No phone number anywhere. My own suitcase, wherever it was, carried my name, my number, and my cousin's address in my own handwriting, which at the time felt like foresight and later felt like something else entirely. Somewhere in Paris, a bride was missing her dress and holding a week of my wrinkled shirts, one electric toothbrush, and a paperback about burnout I had bought at the airport and pretended not to be embarrassed by. I imagined her crying in a hotel room, bridesmaids panicking, a mother blaming airport security, a groom pacing in polished shoes, furious at the inconvenience. My stomach twisted. I closed the suitcase carefully like the dress was sleeping and grabbed my jacket. I was halfway to the door, ready to take it back to the airport or the hotel, or honestly hand it to the first responsible-looking French person I could find, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered fast. Hello? For a moment, there was only breathing. Then a woman said, Is this Noah? Her voice was soft, American, and strained at the edges like she had been holding herself together with both hands. Yes, Natalie? A tiny pause. Yes. I have your suitcase, I said quickly. And I am so sorry. I think we grabbed each other's bags at the airport. I found your dress. I was just about to... Don't! The word was so quiet I almost missed it. I stopped with my hand on the apartment door. What? Please, she whispered. Don't return my dress. I stared at the suitcase on Elise's bed. Outside, a scooter buzzed past. Somewhere downstairs, someone laughed in French. The whole city kept moving, but I couldn't. Natalie, I said carefully, you know I have your wedding dress, right? A small, broken laugh came through the phone. Not amused, not really. I know. And you don't want it back? Another pause. This one lasted long enough for me to hear something behind her, a man's voice, muffled, sharp, impatient. Her voice dropped even lower. My fiancé thinks I lost it. If he gets it back, the wedding goes on exactly the way he planned. Something in the way she said he planned made my hand fall from the door. I didn't know this woman. I didn't know her story. I didn't know if she was scared, impulsive, dramatic, or simply having the worst pre-wedding panic attack in recorded history, but I knew what it sounded like when someone was drowning quietly. And Natalie Rowan sounded like she had just found one ridiculous, accidental life raft in the form of an unemployed man holding the wrong suitcase in Paris. Where are you? I asked. She breathed in, shaky but relieved. Not the hotel, she said. Please, can you meet me somewhere public? Yes. There's a cafe near Saint-Sulpice, blue awning, 20 minutes. I'll be there. And Noah? Yeah? If a man named Preston calls you. Her voice trembled. Don't answer. Then the line went dead. I stood in my cousin's apartment for 10 full seconds after the call ended, staring at my phone like it had just handed me a live grenade. Then I looked at the suitcase. A wedding dress was supposed to be a symbol of joy. This one felt like evidence. I considered calling Elise, but what was I going to say? Hey, quick question. If a bride asked me to hide her dress from her fiancé, is that a felony or a meet cute? Instead, I did the only thing my exhausted brain could manage. I took Natalie's suitcase off the bed, set it gently in the corner, grabbed my passport, and left. Paris in the late afternoon looked unfairly beautiful for a man walking into someone else's disaster. The sky hung low in silver. Cafes glowed at the corners. People smoked, kissed cheeks, carried flowers, argued into phones like their lives were operas. I found the cafe near Saint-Sulpice by its blue awning and striped chairs. I arrived early, which gave me plenty of time to panic. What if Preston had followed her? What if this was some elaborate scam? What if she changed her mind and accused me of stealing the dress? Then I saw her. Natalie Rowan crossed the street with my black suitcase rolling behind her, and every thought in my head went quiet. She wasn't dressed like a runaway bride. No veil, no dramatic mascara trails. She wore dark jeans, a cream coat, and a scarf pulled up near her chin. Her brown hair was twisted loosely at the back of her neck, though several strands had escaped in the wind. She was beautiful, yes, but not in the polished, untouchable way I expected. She looked tired. More than tired. She looked like someone who had spent years smiling at the exact right moments and had finally forgotten how. The cream coat snagged at something in my memory and then let go. Her eyes found mine, then dropped to my empty hands. You didn't bring it, she said. No, I answered. You asked me not to. Relief flickered across her face so quickly I almost missed it. I brought yours, she said, nudging my suitcase forward. Thank you. I glanced at the handle out of habit. The red ribbon was gone. It was coming untied at the hotel, she said quickly. I didn't want to lose it, so She patted her coat pocket, then stopped, like she'd caught herself doing something she couldn't explain. I'll give it back. Keep it. It's a ribbon. Neither of us moved to take the suitcase. For some reason, the exchange felt too simple. Like if I grabbed my bag and walked away, I'd be abandoning her in the middle of a sentence she hadn't learned how to finish. You knew my name before I said it, I said. It's on your tag. Your handwriting is terrible. It's been a rough year for my handwriting. Her mouth twitched. Do you want coffee? I asked. She glanced over her shoulder. It was a small motion, but it told me too much. I shouldn't, she said. Because of Preston? Her mouth tightened. Because everyone has an opinion about where I should be. I didn't push. I just stepped aside and gestured to the cafe. For the record, my only opinion is that you look like you could use something warm. A surprised laugh escaped her. It was small but real. Something warm sounds dangerous. Paris is full of risks. She studied me for a moment, as if trying to decide whether kindness had a hidden cost. Then she nodded. We took a table outside under a heater. She kept my suitcase close to her chair, one hand resting on the handle. I ordered coffee in the worst French ever spoken by a human adult. The waiter replied in English, probably out of mercy. Natalie smiled into her cup. You're not from here. What gave me away, the accent or the crime against your language? Both. I almost told her I had come to Paris to become a new man, but that sounded too dramatic and too false. I had come because I didn't know where else to go. I'm visiting my cousin, I said. I needed a break. From what? The question was gentle, but it landed in a bruise. Work, I said. Or not work now, I lost my job. Her expression changed, not pity, recognition. I'm sorry. I was burned out before they let me go, so really they just fired the ashes. She looked at me for a second, then laughed again. This one stayed longer. That's terrible. I know, I'm workshopping healthier ways to describe personal failure. Does Paris help? I looked around at the wet pavement, the church rising pale and grand nearby, the people passing with baguettes and cigarettes and places to be. I don't know yet, I said. I've only been here 2 hours and already joined a bridal conspiracy. Natalie's smile faded, but not completely. I didn't mean to drag you into this. You didn't. Baggage claim did. She wrapped both hands around her cup and didn't answer that. I should want that dress back, she said instead, quietly. I know how it sounds. It sounds like there's a reason. Her eyes lifted to mine. For a moment, she seemed younger than she was. Not childish, just unguarded. Preston chose it, she said. The dress, the venue, the flowers, the guest list, even the song for our first dance. That's a lot. He says I'm indecisive. Her thumb traced the rim of the cup. He says he's helping, that I get overwhelmed, that if he didn't take charge, nothing beautiful would ever happen. There was no anger in her voice. That made it worse. She sounded like she had repeated his words so often they had started wearing her shape. And the wedding? I asked. She looked toward the street. Tomorrow. The heater hummed above us. I sat back, stunned. Tomorrow? My parents are here. His family is here. 200 guests, a photographer from Milan, a string quartet. She swallowed. And no dress. Because of an airport carousel. Something crossed her face then, fast and complicated, like a word she decided not to say. Because of an airport carousel, she repeated. I didn't know what to say to that. So I said the truth. You don't have to marry him. Her face changed immediately. Fear passed over it like a shadow. You don't understand. You're right. I don't. He's not always cruel. That sentence made my chest ache. Natalie seemed to hear it too. She closed her eyes. I hate that I said that. Before I could answer, her phone lit up on the table. Preston. She stared at the name like it was a hand around her throat. I didn't move. After the fourth ring, she turned the phone face down. Then she looked at me and, in a voice barely louder than breath, said, Can we walk? We walked without a plan. Natalie pulled her scarf higher and I rolled my suitcase beside me because neither of us had figured out how to complete the exchange and leave. The wheels clicked over the old stones, loud in the quiet between us. Saint-Sulpice rose behind us, pale. Under a gray sky, its fountain splashing. A child in a yellow raincoat stomped through a puddle while his mother pretended to scold him. Natalie watched him and smiled. It changed her whole face. There you are, I said before I could stop myself. What? Nothing, sorry. No, say it. You looked happy for half a second. I just thought... There you are. Her smile softened, then folded into something sadder. I used to be happy a lot. What changed? She kept walking. I got good at being chosen. That landed harder than I expected. Preston liked that I was easygoing at first, his word, not mine. Then he started improving me. She made a small gesture at herself. Better clothes, better friends, better posture and photographs. He said my laugh was too loud at formal dinners. Your laugh? I know. That's a terrible opinion. She laughed then, quietly, as if testing whether the sound still belonged to her. I felt absurdly proud of making it happen. We ducked into a narrow street lined with shops. A tiny bookstore sat between a florist and an antique lamp seller. Its window displayed old French novels, postcards, and a sleeping orange cat who seemed deeply unimpressed with humanity. Natalie stopped. Can we go in? Absolutely. Inside, the air smelled like paper and rain. The owner nodded without looking up from his newspaper. Natalie moved through the shelves slowly, running her fingers along the spines. For the first time since I'd met her, she didn't look hunted. You like books? I asked. I wanted to be a book editor. Wanted? My father said publishing was unstable. Preston said I'd be underpaid and surrounded by men who wore scarves indoors. I looked down at my own scarf. She smiled. Apparently you're dangerous. I've been called worse this week. She pulled out a worn poetry collection and opened it carefully. What did you do? Software support, management, mostly translating panic into spreadsheets. Did you love it? I leaned against a shelf. At some point I loved being useful, then useful turned into available. Available turned into exhausted. Exhausted turned into unemployed. She closed the book. And what do you want now? No one had asked me that in months. I don't know, I said honestly. That's the terrifying part. Natalie nodded like she understood exactly. Then she set the book against her chest. Noah, the suitcases didn't get switched. The shop went very quiet. What? I took yours. Her voice was steady in the way glass is steady right before it isn't. I stood at that carousel watching my own case go around and around, and I could not make my hands reach for it. So I let it keep going, and then I watched you. A cream coat across the belt. 2 bags rolling past a woman who didn't move. You were right across from me, I said slowly. You looked like a man who had been carrying something for years and nobody had ever offered to take it. She swallowed. So when your bag came by, I lifted it off before you got there, and I left mine circling for you. I counted the steps to the doors and I did not look back once. Her eyes came up wet and furious with herself. I left my wedding dress going in circles at an airport because I couldn't put it down with my own hands. I didn't say anything for a long moment. It should have been simple. A woman had made an escape and picked a stranger to be part of it. But something old and sore turned over in my chest, and the word for it was one I had already used out loud. Useful. So you picked me, I said. Yes. Why me? Because you looked like you'd understand. She said it plainly. And because you had a red ribbon on your handle. Nobody who ties a ribbon to a suitcase is trying to hurt anybody. That was so ridiculous and so exactly true that I had to look at the ceiling for a second. Are you angry? She asked. I don't know yet, that's honest. I'd rather have honest. Outside, the rain had softened to mist. She bought the poetry book despite insisting she shouldn't. I paid before she could argue, and she let me, which felt like a small permission neither of us named. We crossed to the fountain and sat on the stone edge, shoulder to shoulder, but not touching. I can't marry him tomorrow, she said. Calm. Final. My heart kicked once. Okay, she turned to me. That's all you're going to say? I want to know one thing. Is that because the dress is gone or because you already decided at that carousel? She looked at the water a long time. At the carousel, she said. I just needed 9 hours and a stranger to admit it. Then it isn't the universe deciding for you? No. Her voice cracked. It's worse, it's me. That's not worse. She wiped her face with the back of her hand and laughed at herself, and I had the sudden, dangerous thought that I would do almost anything to hear that laugh when she wasn't afraid. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Natalie saw the screen and went still. I didn't answer. A message appeared a moment later. This is Preston Vale. You have something that belongs to my fiancé. Bring it to Hotel Beaumont now, or I will involve the police. How does he have my number? I said. Natalie's face drained. Your tag. He photographed it in the room before I left with your bag. He said we should know who had it. She looked up at me, stricken. Noah, your tag has your cousin's address on it. Another message came through, and tell Natalie I'm done indulging this little performance. Natalie read the second message twice. Then she pushed my suitcase an inch away from her leg like it had burned her. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For him, for the tag, for picking you out of a crowd because you looked kind and then handing you all of this. You didn't make him send that? He'll call the airline, the hotel, the police. He knows how to sound reasonable. Her voice was steady, but her hands weren't. He'll say I'm confused, that I'm under stress, that you're taking advantage. That won't work. You don't know him. No, I said. But I know the dress is in my cousin's apartment, and I know you're sitting here telling me you don't want to get married. That matters. She looked at me like she wanted badly to believe it. My phone rang again. This time the name was not unknown. Elise, I answered. Noah, she said in a sharp whisper. Why is there a wedding dress in my apartment? I closed my eyes. Funny story. It is not funny. It is enormous and expensive, and I am holding a glass of wine for courage. The owner knows I have it. She doesn't want it returned. A pause, then much quieter. Ah. That was one of the things I loved about my cousin. She could hear a whole disaster in one syllable. Is she safe? Elise asked. I looked at Natalie. She was watching the fountain like it might give her instructions. I'm trying to figure that out. Elise, her fiancé has your address. Mine was on my luggage tag. Then bring her here, Elise said, without 1 second of hesitation. Not the dress, her. My neighbor downstairs is a retired rugby player who still believes he is 25, and I'll make soup. Soup? People make better decisions when warm. When I hung up, Natalie was staring at me. She isn't angry? She's French-adjacent and dramatic. So yes, but productively. For the first time since Preston's messages, she smiled. Then her own phone rang. Mom. The name lit up between us. Natalie's face crumpled before she answered. She turned away, but I could still hear pieces. Yes, Mom. I know. No, I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. Please don't cry. Her shoulders went rigid. No, I am not with some man. I mean, I am, but not like that. He's the person from the airport. I pretended to be fascinated by a pigeon. Then Natalie went very still. What did Preston tell you? Silence. Her voice changed after that, smaller. No, I didn't say that. I never said I was unstable. I turned back. Natalie's eyes had filled with tears, but her chin lifted. Mom, listen to me. I am scared to marry him. Another pause. I know he paid for everything. I know everyone flew here. I know Dad thinks he's perfect. She wiped one tear angrily from her cheek. But I am your daughter, not a centerpiece. The words seemed to surprise her as much as they did me. I saw something break open in her face. Not peace, not yet, but space. Then she whispered, I have to go, and ended the call. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I've never said anything like that to her, she said. How do you feel? Terrified, she breathed out. Also, tall. That's good. It's very inconvenient. Most growth is. She laughed weakly and I stood, and then I made myself say the thing I'd been chewing on since the bookstore. Natalie, I need to ask you something ugly. She looked up. Okay. For about 3 years, I was the guy people picked because he'd say yes. Cover the shift, take the call, fix the thing at midnight. I was useful right up until I was empty, and nobody noticed the difference, including me. My throat tightened. So I need to know whether I'm a person to you or an exit. The mist collected on her hair. She didn't look away, and she didn't rush. I can't tell you the difference right now, she said finally. That's the most honest answer I have, and you deserve the honest one. Yeah, I said, I do. But I'll know, she said. And when I know, you'll be the first person I say it to, not my mother, not anyone. That should have felt like a rejection. Somehow it felt like the opposite, and it scared me more. I lifted my phone. I'm going to answer him once. Noah, don't provoke him. I won't. I typed slowly. Natalie is safe. I will not give the dress to anyone except her, and only if she asks for it. Do not contact me again. I showed her before sending. Why are you doing this? She asked. I could have given a noble answer, because it's right. Because he's a bully. Because someone should. But the truest answer was quieter. Because yesterday I thought my life was over because I lost a job that was killing me, I said. And today a woman I met by accident reminded me that leaving the wrong thing isn't failure. It wasn't entirely an accident. I'm aware, I said, and she almost smiled. The air between us changed anyway. It got warm despite the mist, crowded with everything we had no right to say yet. Send it, she said. I did. Preston replied less than a minute later. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I put the phone in my pocket. Elise's soup is sounding better, I said. We took the metro back across the city. Natalie sat beside me, poetry book in her lap, my suitcase between her knees. Our shoulders brushed once when the train lurched. Neither of us moved away quickly enough. At Elise's building, my cousin opened the door before I knocked. She was small, fierce, and holding a wooden spoon like a weapon. Her gaze went straight to Natalie, and whatever speech she had prepared vanished. Oh, sweetheart, Elise said softly. Natalie pressed her lips together. I'm sorry about the dress. Elise stepped aside. Dresses survive. Come in. Inside, the suitcase with the gown sat in the corner, closed and harmless. Natalie stared at it for a long time. Then she walked over, knelt, and placed one hand on the lid. I used to think if I wore it, I'd become the woman everyone wanted me to be. Elise said nothing. I said nothing. Natalie looked up at me. But when I walked away from it, she whispered, I could finally breathe. A hard knock struck the apartment door. Once, twice. Then a man's voice, smooth and cold, came from the hallway. Natalie, open the door. The hallway went silent after Preston's voice. Natalie stood. The fear came back to her face, but something stood beside it now. Not courage. Courage sounded too clean. Exhaustion sharpened into a blade. Elise lifted the wooden spoon. Do you want me to answer? No, Natalie said. I do. I'm the one who started this at the airport. She opened the door. Preston Vale looked like a man who had never been told no in a language he respected. Tall, expensive coat, calm enough to pass for reasonable if you didn't look at his eyes. His gaze went from Natalie to me to the suitcase in the corner. There it is. Then to me, almost pleasantly. You wrote your cousin's address on your own luggage. Careless. Natalie didn't move aside. Come back to the hotel, he said, lowering his voice. Your mother is hysterical. My parents are humiliated. We can still fix this if you stop being dramatic. She flinched at the word, but she didn't step back. I'm not marrying you. The sentence landed quietly. Preston blinked. Excuse me? Not tomorrow, not ever. Natalie. No. Her voice shook, then steadied. You don't get to say my name like it belongs to you. For the first time, he looked uncertain. 1 second, but I saw it. Then he turned on me. You think this is romantic? Hiding another man's bride? She's not your bride, I said. Natalie lifted her hand. I stopped. She had this. He didn't hide anything, she said. I took his suitcase off that carousel on purpose and left mine going around. Noah didn't choose for me. Nobody chooses for me anymore. Preston laughed under his breath. You think you can embarrass me in front of 200 people and walk away? Yes. One word, simple, beautiful. That dress is mine, he said. I paid for it. Natalie reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the ring. A square diamond caught the light. She held it out. Then take this too. He didn't take it, so she set it on the little table by the door. Downstairs, a door opened and a heavy voice called up in French. Elise smiled sweetly. My neighbor. Very protective building. Preston's jaw tightened. You'll regret this. She nodded, tears slipping down her face. Maybe, but at least it will be my regret. He left. Men like Preston rarely slam doors in public. He walked out with his expensive shoes and his wounded pride, and somehow that made the silence after him feel bigger. Natalie closed the door. Then she folded to the floor. I knelt beside her, but I didn't touch her until she reached for my hand. "I did it," she said, as if she couldn't believe herself. "You did." Elise wiped her eyes with the back of her wrist. "Now," she announced, voice thick. "Soup." The wedding did not happen. There were accusations, relatives who took sides, and a voicemail from Natalie's father that began angry and ended with him crying too hard to finish a sentence. The next morning she opened the suitcase, looked at the dress a long time, and zipped it closed again. "I'm not ready to decide what it becomes." "That's allowed." An American gets 90 days in Europe without paperwork. I know that with unpleasant precision because I counted them. Natalie took a room above a laundromat near the canal and a job at a small English-language press, reading manuscripts on park benches like she was answering a future she had postponed. I took remote contract work at Elise's kitchen table for clients who never once saw me at 2 a.m. We didn't rush. We walked, we argued about poetry. She laughed too loudly in restaurants on purpose. On day 84, the night before my flight home, we ended up outside the bookstore with the orange cat asleep in the window. "So," she said, "you go home." "I go home? And then?" "That's your line, not mine," I said. "You told me you'd know the difference between a person and an exit. I've been patiently not asking for 3 months. You've been terrible at not asking. I've been silently terrible." She stepped closer, and the joke died somewhere between us. "I know the difference," she said. "An exit is any door. I don't want any door." Her hand curled into the front of my jacket. I didn't fall for the man who kept my dress. I fell for the man who asked whether I wanted him or an escape, and then waited for a real answer instead of taking the easy one. "Natalie, I'm not choosing you because you're useful. You're actually not that useful. You still can't pronounce croissant." I laughed and she kissed me. It was not careful. It was the kiss of a woman who had spent years asking permission and had decided to stop. When she leaned back, she was smiling like she'd won something. "Okay," I said unsteady. "Terms." "Terms," she agreed. "I fly home. I sort out a long-stay visa properly, which is boring and takes months, and I come back with permission to actually live here. I come to Chicago in February, 2 weeks. I want to see the apartment you hated." "And no ring," I said. "Not for a long time. You just put one down on a table." Her eyes filled. "Ask me in a year." "I intend to." By the following spring, the paperwork cleared and I came back with a long-stay visa, 2 suitcases, and a job at a small company that cared more about humans than dashboards. She met me at baggage claim, which she found hilarious and I found emotionally dangerous. A year after that night, Natalie decided what the dress would become. She had it remade, not into another gown, but into a simple ivory coat with pearl buttons down the front. She wore it one cool evening by the Seine, hair loose in the wind, my old red ribbon knotted around her wrist. The one she'd slipped off my suitcase handle at that hotel and never given back. Like a joke only we understood. She put her hand into mine and said, "I'm glad you stole my dress." "Accidentally," I said. "Not entirely." I looked at her, free, laughing, alive, and stopped trying to return to a life that no longer fit. "So tell me honestly, if you had unzipped that suitcase in a borrowed apartment in Paris and found a stranger's wedding dress, would you have taken it straight back to the airport or waited for the phone to ring? Has a mistake ever handed you a person you weren't looking for? A wrong bag, a wrong number, a wrong turn that turned out right? Tell me your story in the comments, and if this one kept you company tonight, leave a like and subscribe so you're here for the next one.